It's a huge challenge that we're facing, and some of it is about increasing the production of food. But there are other angles to this as well, of course. We waste an enormous amount of food at the moment, and we need to reduce that waste. And also the way that we consume food has a huge impact in terms of our then impact on the environment. So if we're eating meat in our diets, then livestock has an additional impact, which involves the amount of energy it takes to raise livestock, the amount of water it takes to raise livestock, and all of this added land that we need if we're going to raise livestock. You can support more people on a certain amount of land with purely vegetarian diets than you can once you introduce meat into the equation. Now, I'm not at all saying we should get rid of meat globally, and that's not realistic anyway. Especially in developing countries, livestock and meat can be a really important source of protein and other micronutrients, and it comes in a handy package. But what I am saying is we need to be more thoughtful about it. And this needs to be much more than just governments telling people how to behave, governments and scientists together telling people how to behave. We need to have a conversation about this, and it needs to be a two-way flow of information. We need to somehow get to a point where people are reconnecting with the environment, because at the end of the day, this is where this food is coming from. And the choices you make when you're taking something off a shelf in a supermarket, or picking something up at your local market or your farm shop, or eating it off your plate, that has come from the environment, it's come from the landscape, and we need to rediscover that connection. I think it's incredibly important that we start to have those conversations at an extremely young age, primary school, probably even earlier actually, and talk to our children about where food comes from and the kinds of impact that the choices that they're having are having on their wider environment. So there are all sorts of issues there about sustainability and about food production, but also crucially about human health as well. And we can tie all of that up together. But it is really important to be doing it very early on. And if we can help children to establish healthy habits as youngsters, then hopefully those will stay with them through their lives. And also, if we can start to get them thinking about the wider environment and the impacts that they have through those choices, which sometimes can seem very far removed. Choosing something in a supermarket seems so far removed from something growing on a hillside somewhere. But somehow, if we can put those things back together for them at a very young age, then hopefully they will carry on thinking about their impact on the environment throughout their lives. There's a certain amount of strategy that the government can probably just get on with the help of scientists, if we're thinking about how best to reduce waste, getting food from where it's being produced to supermarkets, for instance, those sort of things. But actually, what we need to do is have a meaningful conversation with the wider community, with the general public in all their massive diversity. Because what we need to know is what people want as well. We can't force a change in behaviour on people. We need to know what they really want. And I think most people want to be helped to eat healthily, and also to be making choices which are better for the environment as well. So we do actually need to have that two-way dialogue with the public, rather than just telling people what's good for them. I think engaging the general public and getting to a point where we have better communication is achieved in all sorts of different ways. And I think that actually things like this event are the beginnings of it, probably, and a good example of how it might work. We've had a minister from DEFRA here today discussing with me and with a top expert in food production about how we tackle some of these issues, and doing that in discussion with the audience here today. But we need to take that discussion out much more widely, and also we need to be doing it from the perspective of not just scientists and policymakers, but we need to think of other ways of engaging the public in this dialogue. So we do need the help of sociologists and philosophers, and probably thinking even more widely, poets and artists and writers, in order to engage people in this very wide conversation.